Hey guys, welcome and welcome back. You know what time it is? It is time for Proverbs chapter 30, our daily wisdom dive. Now, this chapter is really a collection of wise words of Agur, and he's only mentioned in this chapter of the Bible and nowhere else, so he's otherwise unknown. But this collection of wise words are described as an oracle, meaning they're a crucial message or prophetic word from God. Now, Agur really begins this chapter in verses 2 to 4 with a level of humility, where he makes note of his own limitations when it comes to understanding and wisdom of God. And then he uses rhetoric questioning to reinforce the need for us to also know our own limitations when it comes to the understanding of God and all his creation and our spiritual knowledge. Then he goes on to shed light on the sufficiency of God's word as pure and true, and that it's a shield of protection for those who put their trust in God. It also comes with a very strong warning that we should not tamper with God's word, meaning we should neither add to it nor take away from it, because then we become targets of God's rebuke and will be exposed as liars. Now, part of the text in verses 7 to 9 is a prayer from Agur where he asks God to keep him from certain errors. He makes two requests to God and asks that God fulfills them while he is still alive. One is to keep him in personal integrity and away from dishonesty. And two, to also keep him from the extremes of poverty and luxury, because he realizes that both of them come with their own temptations. He only wants to be satisfied with God's provision for just what he needs. Basically, he's telling God too many riches for him may cause him to actually deny God and think that God is unnecessary. And if he is too poor, then it's going to drive him to use it as an excuse to sin, like to steal, for example. Now, he goes on to talk about the foolish, sinful generations that are full of pride. The first generation are those who dishonor their parents. The second are those who think they're so pure in their own eyes that they're blind to their own sins and faults, and they think they're morally clean. And then how about the third generation who are so stuck up that they think they're far better than everybody else? And the last generation, my God, they're so merciless and cruel like wolves, with teeth like swords and jaws like knives, where they greedily devour and tear into the poor and shred them to pieces. Basically, it's saying they're like leeches. They're just never satisfied. They want you to give and keep giving more. Now, later in the chapter, in a number sequence and pattern of 3 then 4, Agur lists the category of events that capture his interest, using the fourth point as the key or most important point in those categories. The first category is what he called the 4 insatiables, meaning those are just things that always desire more and are never satisfied. One is the grave. No matter how many people you put in there, there's always space for more. It never gets filled. 2, the barren womb, always wanting for a child. 3 is the earth that just never gets enough water. And 4, fire. It burns as long as there is fuel. Now, the next category is referred to as the 4 mysteries. Those are things that amazes him, but they're hard to understand. Basically, they are things that progress or move without a trace. 1, the eagle in the air, with its power, its height, and its grace. 2 is the way a serpent glides on a rock. It slithers itself up on a hard and sharp rock and doesn't get injured. Number 3, the weight of a ship in the midst of a sea. When it comes to being in the midst of a sea, a ship is small, yet it is not overtaken and overpowered by the sea. And 4, the way of a man with a virgin. The next category are the 4 intolerable or unbearable things, meaning that these are things that are not fundamentally right and they cause disruption by people that are put out of place. Pretty much what it's saying here is suddenly thrusting people into new positions or circumstances without the proper preparation causes disaster. Number 1, a slave or servant who becomes a king. Number 2, a fool filled with food. Basically, he becomes satisfied and all that gives him is energy to continue in his foolishness. 3, the hateful woman who gets married. And 4, the maidservant who takes over the queen. Next category are the 4 small wonders. These are lowly creatures who are exceedingly wise. But 1, the ant. They're small and they're not strong, but they prepare their food in the summer for the winter time. This reminds us that God can use what is considered as weak and unimportant instruments to achieve his will. Number 2, rock badgers. They have no speed or strength, but they make the rock their home, which is a humble reminder that we as humans should work ourselves into the rock of Jesus Christ. Number 3, the locusts. They have no king, they have no ruler. But when they move like an army in ranks. Number 4, the spider. It uses its skills and abilities to go anywhere and build its web anywhere, including the king's palace. And basically, that reminds us that our gifts can take us anywhere. Now, the last category are the 4 stately and majestic things. Those are things that are confident, powerful, and assured. 1, the lion in the jungle. It is mighty, it's respected by other animals, and it moves swiftly. Number 2, the greyhound. It has speed and grace. Number 3, the male goat. It has stubborn persistence. And number 4, a king who is supported by his army. Now, Agur began chapter 30 by expressing his own humility and limitations. And he wraps up the chapter with advice to us that we should also walk in humility as well. So that's my quick rundown of Proverbs chapter 30. Let me know what stood out to you and join me here tomorrow where we take our dive into Proverbs chapter 31. Bye, guys.